Okay, we're on page 5, note 5, Chamsa Chamsa. Okay, so we're still in the world of Adam HaRishon. We spoke about the sin, we spoke about the world before Adam HaRishon. The Rambam called it the great change, the Shinoi Hagadol, the great change that happened in the world and what the world became. We said the Yetzer Hara, we said a lot of stuff. The Yetzer Hara, we said, it was very small, barely, it had to be Yetzer Hara, it had to be some kind of free will. For Adam and Chava to make the mistake they did, but it was very small. Once they sinned, that changed. The Yetzer Hara became an eternal thing, and the nature of bad, of Ra, increased greatly in the world. It became difficult to tell the difference between good and bad. Something else has happened. We spoke about the milchama between the body and the soul, which obviously on a microcosmic level also increased after the sin. Let's finish this off. We should finish this last class, but we're okay. Bottom of page 5. Another great change that happened. Another great change that happened that's going to have consequences for the end of days. So we're going to come full circle. We're going to see the end of that circle right now. Look at note 5 at the bottom. V'ulam, says the Ramchal, milvad kol zeh. Everything we've spoken about, this sin of Adam HaRishon, kol zeh gezerah midat dino yisbarach, is an expression of God's strict attribute. We said God has various attributes. God relates to the world. This is his attribute of din, of judgment. Shelo yuchlu lo adam v'lo olam me'ata higi el shleimut. Once the sin of Adam HaRishon happened, it became impossible for mankind to totally perfect itself in the world the way it is. Something needed to happen. Something entered the world for us, and something's going to enter the world for all of humanity in a totality once the sin happened. And only through that thing can perfection, shleimut, happen. So as it stands, the world cannot reach perfection. We can move towards it, and all of history said is a slow trudging towards the end of days, which we're going to talk a lot about this course. However, complete shleimut cannot occur. All the while that the world is in its kilkul, and its broken mode, phase. Dahainu, hatsura shlesh makshav, shabbat rabba hara. Meaning this blemished state that we went into of Ra, of evil, that happened after the sin of Adam HaRishon. Ella, yistarach lahem behechrach avor ma'avar hefsed. The state of the world would have to go through some kind of loss, a period of hefsed, of absence, is going to have to enter into the world. Dahainu, what is that? Hamit al Adam, death. Death came into the world. When Adam HaRishon, before the sin, death was not part of plan A. Death was part of plan B. Okay, there would have to be death into this world. That's what Adam HaRishon brought into the world. Death, misa, mita.
They were supposed to be immortal?
They were meant to be immortal, yeah. They were perfect beings, yeah. They were meant to be immortal. Okay. Ella, acha sheteitze memena tchila, v'yamot haguf v'yafsed, v'az yachsov v'yivneh binyan chadash. Now we understand that death would have to come into the world. Through it, a new beginning would come to mankind and to the rest of creation that had become chaser, deficient. Okay? We'll look at the English because it'll be turn over the page. In this configuration, meaning the olam as it is today, the soul would not be able to immediately exercise its ability to purify the body. As it stands, your soul is going against the grain. It's too difficult. It can work and become great and affect the body, but absolute perfection, no, it cannot do that. What would have to happen? The soul would have to leave the body and then at some point re-enter the body to purify the guf, the physical body. Okay? Jump to the last paragraph. V'al kain, that is why. Nigzar al hadam, it was gozer, decreed upon mankind, shiamut v'yichzor v'yichyeh, that mankind would die, would then return, and then live. What is this a reference to? This is a reference to the end of the 6,000 years we're going to see, if it takes that long, of Tchiat Hamitim, resurrection of the dead. Says the Ramchal, that's the final piece of the puzzle. That's where we're going. I'm going to spend some time, as you can imagine, at the end of the course, God willing, December time, or around there, We'll be investigating this idea as well. But that's where we're going. All roads lead to Tchiyat HaMeitim. And that is why Chazal tell us, V'hu inyan ma she'amru Chazal, Shisa alfei shana havi alma. For 6,000 years, the world will exist as it is. After that, there's going to be another 1,000 years, V'sof elef shana, in another 1,000 years, and God is going to renew the world. So the world as it is going to, as a maximum, last for 6,000 years, and then another 1,000 years, which is going to be the 7,000th. That's the Shabbat. That's the Olam Haba, the world that is all Shabbat. Yeah, that's what we're referring to. We say that expression. So we go 6,000 years as it is. Mashiach must come by that time, and then the final 1,000 years comes in. He actually mentions elsewhere. I think I've mentioned elsewhere in the book, or some other source I'll bring down for you. Then there'll be another 8,000, which is the 8th. And he says, we have no idea, we can't even fathom what that's going to be like. He says the 8, because 8 always represents L'mala min HaTeva, so we have the 6,000, like 6 days of the week. Then we have the 1,000 years, which is Shabbat, that's Olam Haba. And then he says it'll be an 8,000th, with his 1,000 years after that. And he says, we have no prophet has ever seen that. We have no understanding. Actually, by the way, I'll mention it right now. When it comes to Mashiach, there's tons written on that. We're not aware of that. Mashiach's coming that soon. We're going to see, there's loads of sources. The prophets talk about it, and the Rishon, the Acharon, everyone's schmoozing talking about Mashiach. Tchiyat HaMeitim, there's not much written on it. We don't really fully understand what it's going to be like and what it's going to represent. We don't have an understanding. He says, Navi Lora, the prophets couldn't see after that what's going to be like. The 8,000th, no one, we can't even fathom what the world's going to be like at that point. That is beyond our physical, mortal comprehension. Okay? So that's 6,000, 6 days of the week, then the 7th, and then the 8th is going to take us all the way, yes.
Not that I think this is going to happen, but if Mashiach doesn't come by 6,000, are we allowed to question our messaging?
We're not going to be around then, because if we are now in 577, 6, about to go into 577, 7,
I don't mean us.
that gives us,
I
at
mean
that
us.
point, yeah. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen before then, by the way. It's going to happen before then. Okay. That was the completion to the first 3 classes. Yes.
Where does he get 6,000 years from? Just corresponds to Shabbat?
So he said that's the remez. That's part of it, by the way. Each one of those days represents. We mentioned the 6 alephs in the first pasuk of the Torah, the Gemara says. And aleph is elef, it's 1,000, right? One is that. So that's hinted there as well. The Rambam talks about it. The Gemara talks about it. Right? The Mara, everyone talks about it. That 6,000 is the maximum. But it's based upon the days of the week. Right? Each one for those days. By the way, where are we right now then? No, not Thursday. If 6,000 is the end, where are we right now?
Friday.
We are Friday. Where on Friday? Erev Shabbos. What's it like in your house, Erev Shabbos? Crazy. That's why you invite guests for Shabbos, not Erev Shabbos. Because they saw Erev Shabbos, you're like, you people are crazy. You ain't coming here for Shabbos. There's a reason why we only have guests on Shabbos. Erev Shabbos, right? Hard work, Erev Shabbos. What happens Erev Shabbos? It's fast. It's moving. Right? We'll see, the commentators say, they'll say, you see at the end of days, right when Mashiach comes, things are going to speed up incredibly. You're in the world of Erev Shabbos, things is moving quickly. That's all part of it. When we get to Mashiach, we'll talk about that. But that is one of the signs of Mashiach coming. Things that move so quickly, there's going to be a big separation between parent and child. Might be walls between them. That's actually a Mishnah we'll look at the end of Sota. I'm excited. Yes?
So what happens in the year 7,000? You said like the last
So that's the
1,000
thing, right? Because we're now the 5th. The 6,000, then the 1,000 years of Tchiyat HaMeitim. Well, some say, different opinions. Some say there'll be a big resurrection at the beginning of right after Mashiach comes. Some say no, a little bit then later on. But that's considered the 1,000 years of Tchiyat HaMeitim that's referring to, where the world dies and comes back. The resurrection, that's what it means. And that's the world that is Olam Shekol Shabbat, the world that is all Shabbat. Right? By the way, there is something about why Shabbat is used as the metaphor for Olam Haba. It's not a coincidence. Kosher is not a metaphor for Olam Haba. Right? Charity is not Shabbat is. Shabbat is the clearest example we have of Olam Haba. And it's pretty clear, actually, if you just look at it, right? What can you do on Shabbat? Nothing. Right? Just sit, relax, and eat. And that's Olam Haba. It's literally, and by that they say you have to actually keep one Shabbos for Mashiach to come. Just one Shabbos. Where it comes from. It comes from the Gemara. We'll see that Gemara later on, God willing. Shabbat is the portal into Olam Haba. That's why you have to keep at least one Shabbat. Very important. Shabbat is going to be the mechanism by which we bring Mashiach, one of the mechanisms, and we start Olam Haba. It's related. It is no coincidence. That Shabbat's very important. And we'll see Ben and L'Chavera Mitzvah, but we'll come to that why, when, a little bit later in the course. Okay? Marvelous. All right. Did I answer your question? Good, I don't remember it. Okay. So, according to this, it's all about the... Yes?
If I have a combo where we're supposed to see death, is there just supposed to be creation? Like,
Yes, it would have carried on. It's as though Mashiach would have come and it would have just carried on perfectly. We don't understand what that means. Because we live in a world, we said last class, of Olam Hazeh. We can't see that. We have no idea what the world would have been like.
It's as if Mashiach would have come and they would have had children.
Right, and just carried on, and we would have shleimut. We would have complete, that's what the Rambam says. Complete perfectness, shleimut. They sinned, they were kicked out. What was introduced? What's that big thing introduced to the world? Death came into the world. Death is for individuals, and Tcheta Metim as a collective unit. That's going to be the ultimate come back to Gan Eden. So we come full circle. We started at the beginning, we said, we went all the way, and then Mashiach, and then Tcheta Metim. And that's what this course is going to be doing. That was the introduction I wanted to give you. Okay, according to this then, the neshama, the soul, is what we're all about, right? We're all about soul people. And the answer is no. We're about the body as well. We see that eventually Tcheta Metim, by definition, is the return of the body. The body has importance. The body is holy. For us Jews, the body, that's why we bury bodies. We don't want to cremate, chas v'shalom, right? The body has significance. Let's look at the Gemara on the importance of the body, and then we'll look at the least studied Rambam in all of Mishnah Torah. That's what my Rosh Yeshiva used to call it. Right? The least studied Rambam, it's actually a very long Rambam, but I just brought a little piece of it just so you get a taste for it. Tanya haya Rav Meir Oimer. Rav Meir used to say, Adam Harishon Mikola Olam Kulo Hutzpah Ofra was created from dust gathered from the entire earth. And the commentators say on this, that means a body can be buried anywhere in the entire world and will be accepted into the earth. Amarav, although we'll see later on there's extra mitzvah to die in Israel, and some say to be buried in Eretz Israel. Okay, and Rashi on Chumash actually says when Tchias HaMesim happens, it'll be a little easier and less challenging being buried in Eretz Israel, which is why Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to die in Eretz Israel, and which is why Yosef wanted his bones to return to Eretz Israel, yeah? He says, bodies buried, when Tchias HaMesim happens, the body will have to travel in certain tunnels in order to pop up in Eretz Israel. I don't know what that means, but Rashi says it's slightly uncomfortable. That's Rashi, by the way. That's not some weird Kabbalistic interpretation, right? Okay. So, but however, a body can be buried anywhere in the world. Okay. Amar Rav Ushia, Mishmei Rav. Rav Ushia is the name of Rav. Adam Rishon, let's be more specific. Gufo beBavel. His body comes from Bavel, which is Chutz La'aretz. Rosh Eretz Yisrael, his head in Eretz Yisrael. Evra B'Sharatzot, and the limbs from the other lands. Whatever these words mean. I'm sure there's a lot of depth to it, but a bit that stands out is the Rosh comes from Eretz Yisrael, that's where the head comes from, and the rest of the world accepts it. But one thing we see over here is that the body has significance. We Jews don't look at the body and be like, no, who cares about that? That's just I don't know, a necessary evil. Right? And the answer is no, the body has Kedusha, which is why the body has to be treated with respect. Even after the soul has left the body has to be taken care of, has to be watched over. Right? There's many halachot when it comes to shomrim, to watching over the body. Make sure you don't. One of the reasons you're not allowed to hurt your body. You have to look after it, and you have to eat and sleep well. Two areas that need to be worked on at Stone College, with the food quality and the sleep quality. I love it. Right before the exams, Rabbi, last night, I got 1 hour sleep. I'm like, that's not good. It's not good. I'm married, Baruch Hashem, with 5 kids, a mortgage, 3 jobs, yeah, and I still managed to get 6 hours sleep a night. But the last night, my alarm went off in the middle of the night for some reason. I don't know why. I worked this all out. Okay, let's look at this beautiful Rambam. Right? This Rambam is a world in and of itself, but I had to mention it since we're discussing body and soul. Says the Rambam, Yasim al-Libo, a person should ensure that this is in the Mishnah Torah, the same book that discusses Hilchos Tefillin, Hilchos Shabbos, Right? Hilchos Deot and Hilchos Deos, he discusses this. Yasim alibo sheyeh gufo shalem. A person has to make sure, put his heart that his body is perfect. V'chazek and strong. Kedei shitiyeh nafsho. Amazing words. Look at these words of the Rambam. The least studied Rambam in all the yeshivas. Shitiyeh nafsho, that a person's soul, take care of your body, so that your soul, yeshar l'dasas Hashem, so that your soul knows God. You want to feel close to Hashem, you've got to take care of your body, says the Rambam. He was famous for this. She'ifshar, because it is impossible. She'avin v'yistakal b'chachmot, to be smart and to grow in wisdom and understanding. V'hu ra'av, if you're always hungry, v'chol, and always sick, or echad me'evrav koev, or a part of your body is not doing well. Ad she'gufo shalem, your body should be perfect. La'avod et Hashem, your body should be so you can serve God. Unbelievable Rambam. V'afilu b'shashu yashen, even when you sleep. By the way, how long should a person sleep for? According to the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch?
8 hours.
8 hours, that's right. That's the minimum. Anyone here get 8 hours sleep a night? You do? You're a good sleeper, right? That's why you're always happy and smiling, right? And by the way, so the Rambam, that's you spend 8 hours sleeping and 8 hours working, he says, right? By the way, he also talks about in a second. So he says sleep is very, very important, okay? And we now know, according to science, you miss out on sleep, your whole body is off, and your mind as well. L'dat kedesha tenuach dato, you should sleep so that you have a restful mind. V'yanuach gufa, and your body gets rested. Kedesha lo yechales, you don't get sick. V'lo yechol lavadas Hashem, because it is impossible to serve God if you're sick. You could not be an Eved Hashem if your body is sick. Which is why, when I taught in yeshiva, I was a young man, and Rosh Yeshiva turned around to us, and he would be like, everyone has got to exercise, and I'll share the same with you, at least 3 times a week. You've got to get your heart rate. By the way, how to define exercise, by the way. This is so if you want to see the full piece of the Rambam, look it up. Even in the English, it's amazing. He talks about healthy eating, how to eat, what to eat, certain foods to eat, things you shouldn't eat. He says you shouldn't eat fried bread, by the way. Donuts, basically. Rambam was against Dunkin' Donuts. Right? He says you should stay away from it. He talks about sleeping well. And by the way, he is obsessed with going to the bathroom. He says, you're not going to the bathroom, all bets are off. He says, you've got to see the bathroom 10 times a day, he says. When you check that you need to go. When you wake up, right? Right before you go to sleep. Before you exercise, after you exercise. Right? Before you learn, after you... Right? It's very important how the body works. I'm not saying we don't look at, we're into spirituality, we're about the soul. No, the body and the soul we set are together. The body must be looked after. Sleep 8 hours a night. If you can't get 8 hours a night, get 7 at night and 1 during the day. Not in my class, by the way. Just make clear. I want to give you permission to do that. Right? He says if you have different types of food, he says this, you have a light food and heavy. Eat the light food first. If you're eating chicken and lamb, eat the chicken before you eat them. If you're having salad then meat, you should have the chicken first. If you're having fish, have fish before the meat. He says always start with lighter foods and heavier foods. Right? How do we define exercise? He says when your heart rate goes up, but your breathing increases. Whether through strong movement, he says, or weak movement. How does weak movement get your body up? So I always think that's a reference to like yoga or something. I don't know, Tai Chi, I don't know what it is. Somehow these are weak movements, but if you've ever done it, it really gets your breathing increases. By the way, if the Rambam were to walk into a kosher supermarket today, as a side point, he would look around and say, yeah, it's kosher, but you can't eat it. Because it's so full of complete garbage and processed nonsense. It's a much longer Rambam. I advise you to look it up. I didn't go too much into it, but just so you are aware of how we see it. So the body is not just, okay, the bodies all get together. The body is it's the vessel that holds the soul. If the vessel is broken, the soul is affected by it. Right? You've got to take care of yourself, regular exercise, healthy eating, right? Physical, mental, and spiritual for us. And this is the Rambam's real way of looking at the world, is all holistic. And he was a doctor, by the way. Okay, it's all holistic. We look at the body and soul as one whole. And the body has Kedusha. Right? Just like a Torah is seen as a holy thing, but once you take a piece of velvet or a piece of silver and you put it next to that, it becomes a tashmishi kedusha. You realize that? It's halachas. Right? If a Torah cover gets damaged, you don't just like burn it and throw it away. It has to be treated with respect. Why? It's a piece of velvet, a piece of silver. Once it becomes attached to the Torah, it takes on inherent holiness. It takes on inherent kedusha, inherent holiness. So too, the body itself is physical, comes from the Adamah. But once it becomes into close proximity with the soul, it takes on inherent holiness in and of itself. So you can't damage it, you can't cut it, right? You can't destroy it necessarily, unless it's for a positive purpose, like if an operation or something, obviously. And you can't tattoo it. It's on loan. All right. So that's the body. So let's look at the soul. Page 7. Says the Gemara in Brachos, the soul comes from God. The body comes from the earth. It is physical. It is chomer. It is chumriut. It is physical. But the soul is spiritual. What does that mean? It comes directly from God. It's a part of God. And here the Gemara makes 5 similarities between the soul and God. Let's look at this Gemara together. Page 7. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malekol Olam. Just as God fills the entire world, Af Neshama Malet Kol HaGuf. The soul fills the entire body. 1. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu Roeh. They near just like the God cannot be seen but sees. So too the neshama, the soul, roeh, sees, but cannot be seen. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu zanet kol olam kulo, just as God sustains and maintains the entire world. Af neshama, so too the soul, zanet kol haguf, keeps the body sustained. No neshama, no life. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu tahor, af neshama tahora. God is pure, so too the soul is pure. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev b'chadrei chadarim, sits in a room within a room, hidden away. Af neshama yoshevet b'chadrei chadarim, so to the soul dwells in inner chambers. Yavo misheyesh bo chamesh devarim halu. Let the one who has these 5 attributes, which is us, mankind, v'yishavech, and give shabach, praise, l'misheyesh bo chamesh devarim halu, these 5. So we have these 5 attributes. Anasham has these 5 attributes inside the body. And God has these 5 attributes as well. Right? We see from the Gemara that we are, God bless you, made b'tselem Elokim. This isn't just Jews, this is all mankind. All mankind have these features. Yeah. Right? Because we're made b'tselem Elokim. We're made from a piece of God. Right? So too, us with these 5 have to praise God with those 5. The metaphor is given, not by me, this is given by the rabbis, Chazal, and they say, actually, it's funny, I've given this metaphor for years, and now I understand it properly. I went this summer, took a group of students, 40 students, to Italy. And we were in Venice, which by the way is like the nicest city I'd ever been at. Calm and nice, no cars, just little boats. And we took a day trip to an island called Murano. Has anyone heard of Murano? You haven't heard of it? I've never heard of it before. What do they make in Murano? Glass making, that's right. Colored and beautiful glass. So we went there and they did a nice display for us, hoping that we'd watch it and buy glass, which we did. And when they do the glass, by this incredible skill, they basically heat up the glass, which is basically sand, to like a crazy, it's like, becomes like honey. You've seen it before? And they have this like tube, and they roll it. This guy rolls it, and then what does he do? He blows into it. Right? That is the metaphor that is given for the body and soul by Chazal, by the rabbis. They say that the guf is like the glass, and God, as it were, vayipach ba'apav, remember that first verse where God blew into the nostrils? Life. So life goes in, and it produces. So inside every person is the breath of. That means God is inside each and every one of us. We're not external. Inside us is a little bit of it. And if you were somehow to get inside that bottle and take some of the, the breath and to analyze it, you'll see some of the blower inside it. because part of the blower has invested himself into the guf, into the body, just like the glass blower, when he blows in, has invested some of himself into the glass itself. That is the metaphor of body and soul that Chazal give. Okay. That is the metaphor. Okay, so there are 5 levels of the soul, the rabbis tell us. 5 levels. Let's have a look at where this is based upon and what this means to us. And it's going to have very important implications, because in this world we're going to see that what we do is trying to affect the soul. We want to treat the body well, but ultimately we want to affect the soul. So let's figure out, what is the soul? So the answer is, I don't know. But I've said what the rabbis tell us. It says in Bereshis, Vayomer Elokim, God said, Yishatzu Hamayim, let the water swarm, Sheretz Nefesh Chaya. Nefesh. Nefesh. What's a nefesh?
The animal.
The animal soul. Nefesh Chaya. Okay? That's number 1. So there's something called an animal soul. Right? Va'of yofef al haaretz, and let the birds fly up pnei rekei hashamayim, on the heavens and over the earth. V'yomer Elokim totzaras nefesh chaya lemina, let the earth bring forward living creatures. Behema v'remes v'chayato aretz lemina vayichein, and the creatures came out. Vayitzer Hashem, this is the next piece. Vayitzer Hashem Elokim et Adam, God formed man. Afar min Adama, that's the piece we just saw. The earth from the earth, dust from the earth. Vayipach b'apav nishmat chayim, and he blew a nishmat, which is a neshama. So what's that? Soul. Okay, so far we see there's a nefesh. Now we see there's something called a neshama. Okay. Turn over the page. Says the Midrash Bereshit Rabbah, Chamesha Shemot Dikrula, the soul has 5 names. Nefesh, we saw that one already. Ruach, we didn't see that, we'll see in a second. Neshama, we saw that. Chaya and Yechida. Chaya and Yechida. Now, we're going to draw a line over here, because these in Chazal, what's Ruach? Wind. I guess like spirit. But you're right, the literal translation is wind, and we'll see why in a second. Alright? And this is actually going to represent something as well. So these two, we're not too sure what these are. These are in Shemayim. And when you refer to the soul, you see the rabbi, the Chazal talk about Naran. Right? Nun, Resh, Nun. Naran are the levels of the soul. So there you go. How many souls do you have? 5. Well, 5 levels of the soul. Although they are, the rabbis say, they are captured one in the other. Like, you know those Russian doll things? Mm-hmm. Right, one inside the other? That's really, well, they're captured one in the other. Or as I always like to say, I hate those Russian doll things. They're so full of themselves. You get that? It's a good joke though, right? I feel good. Okay, let's see the rest of the commentators. So we see there's 5 levels of the soul. Obviously, each one has its own function, whatever that means. Okay? Let's have a look. So we see in Devarim, this is just times we see these words in the Torah and they represent something there, so they must represent something in general. Okay? Kitavat nafshecha. The nefesh, says Devarim, represents a desire to eat meat. Basar b'cholavat nafshecha, tochal basar. So over here, this nefesh thing represents physical desire. Right? In this instance, but not limited to, eating. What else? Eating, sleeping. The 2 greatest desires every Stern student always has, right? Eating, sleeping, right? Drinking. All physicality, basically, is driven by the nefesh. By the way, according to this so far, is this a bad thing? Are these physical things, are they seen as bad?
No.
Right? Do we look at the other religions like evil, the physical lusts and desires? Like, no, that's part of the neshama. We have that in common with an animal. Do animals eat? Yeah. And we eat. Do animals sleep? Right? Do animals procreate? Right? Are they intimate? Yeah. They have children? Yeah. Is that a bad thing? No. Not bad. Just what this level of the neshama propels a person to do. Okay? So it says, V'izhamu nafsho machal tava, the nefesh shall abhor food, right? So what's this ruach thing the Midrash speaks about? So we see the word ruach appear a couple of times as well. In Kohelet, al tavahel b'rucha lechos, don't let your ruach become angry. Don't let your ruach become angry. So what's this? Oh, by the way, where is the nefesh found, by the way? Torah tells us, and I didn't bring it down because I'm an idiot. But where do we see the nefesh? Oh, I did. Woo, thank goodness, I felt better. It says in Devarim, Yud Bet, Chaf Gimel, the nefesh is a person is not allowed to eat what part of an animal? The blood, right? Right? Because that's the nefesh. Ki Adam hu nefesh. Right? The blood is the nefesh. So whatever this means, that the nefesh is found in the blood. The nefesh is found in the blood. Which is why you can't eat the blood of an animal, right? We have to drain the blood, then we soak with salt malicha to draw any extra blood out. Okay? So whatever that means, this part is the blood. It represents that which goes through the entire body, right? No blood, no life, right? It's the constant source of it. Okay. The ruach, called rucha yotzis chsil, are the emotions. Right? These are the emotions. I'll explain that in a second, but this is ruach. This is how things display. The ruach means wind. This is how things come out. Speech, actually, interestingly enough, is found over here. By the way, what do we identify? What part of the body do we identify with the emotions?
Brain. The heart.
No, not the brain.
The heart.
I wish. Oh, halavai. The heart, the lave. Right? The heart. And speech, ruach, speech, they say, is from the ruach, right? Right? Speech is where it comes out from, right? Because it's wind. When you speak. Here's a great question. I love this question. With which letter did God create the world? Great question. There's actually a hint of this in the Torah itself. Not Beis. No, Beis is the first letter of the Torah. That's not the letter he built the world with. Aleph? No, actually, the Aleph was upset about that. That's why he started the Ten Commandments with an Aleph, the Anochi.
Yud.
Yud is the spiritual world, right? God created the spirit with the, that's why it's the only letter that doesn't rest on the line, yeah? Here's the line and there's the Yud, right? It's always there, it's a constant. You can take it as much as you want, it's always there. So the spiritual world was with the Yud. What about this world?
Hey.
Hey, very good. Hey. Hey. Right? God created the world with the letter Hey. What is the letter Hey? Say Hey. Breath. Right? That's my coffee breath, I apologize. Right, because you just said. And that's why it says in the Torah, Behi Baram, he created them. Be-Hey Baram. I created the world with a letter. That's a remez, that's a hint to it. So when you're in this world, this is where you are. Boop, boop. Did I ever mention this in Great Neck? Good, I'm talking about it Saturday night now. Thanks for reminding me of that, right? When you're in this world, you're in the letter Hey. Like, you know, in the mall, it says, this is where you are. Right? You're in the world, you're in the letter Hey. And there's a lot to that. The Ramak, from Moshe Kodever, has a whole Devar Torah on this, which is beautiful, but not for now. Okay? So that's breath. So what comes out of us, the emotions, right? That spirit is found over here in the Ruach. Then what's that? What's left? And where's this found? So this is the brain, this is machshava. Remember he said sichli. Remember the Ramchal spoke about the neshama gives you sichli, it gives you intelligence. I need some of that, right? That's the brain, that's the machshava, and that's the desire to think, the ability to think. There is a battle which we've spoken about. The battle is between this and this, the neshama and the nefesh. Right? The neshama. Now animals have a nefesh. They don't have a neshama, which is why, now don't get upset, this is the bit that will get angry with me. Are we all calm? This is why animals don't go to Olam Haba. Your dog does not go to heaven. I know. Listen, calm down. Don't get angry. People get more upset with this than if I said your parents don't go. Hey, who cares about them? But I'm taking my dog with me. Yeah, there's no great kennel in the sky. And the reason is because animals only have nefesh. And nefesh does not get you in. You need neshama. You need to have struggle in order to get into, because that's the battle to get into Olam Haba. Okay? There are no animals in Olam Haba. I'm very sorry. Don't get up with me. Save it. Yeah, here we go.
I've never watched the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Have I seen the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven? I
Like
haven't.
a cartoon.
No, I haven't seen it. Sorry. I don't. Yes.
What does it say next to neshama?
Brain, think. The ability to think. That's the neshama. So this is the battle that happens. This is the milcham you spoke about. Right? This is the neshama invested with the neshama and the nefesh are always fighting it out. And the results of which come out in the ruach. Right? That's the wind, the spirit that comes with it. By the way, nefesh we figured out, but neshama, what's that about? You see something cool? So if you take these letters and rearrange them, you'll get something else which will relate to the neshama. Mishnah. What else? Shmona. What's Shmona? 8. What else? Shemen. The oil. How does that all fit in? It's probably related somehow. Well, let's go to number 8. That's the easy one. What does number 8 always represent in Jewish thought? What does number 8 always represent, Shmona? Infinity. That's right. Lamala min hateva, above the natural cycle. That's why a baby's given a brit meal on the 8th day. Hanukkah lasts for 8 days. That was the amount of miracles, the open miracle of Hanukkah. It's 8 days. So 8 always represents. Now this figure, by the way, most people are not aware. People say, oh, that must be a Jewish figure. That's not. The idea of 8 days, this was made by, I don't know, they say the Arab numerology. However, it can't be coincidence. I can't prove this to you. That it happens to be the symbol for infinity, right, on the side. Right, but this figure itself is not a Jewish. I just very, very clear. This is, some people got upset with me. This is not a Jewish figure. But the idea of 8 being Lamala min hateva, above the physical, is a very, very Jewish idea. When you see the number 8, and it appears a number of times in Jewish thought, in Jewish life, that's what it represents. 7 is the physical world. That's why it's 7 days of the week. 7 days of creation. And 8 is Lamala, one beyond that. Okay? That's the 8,000th we spoke about. It's beyond anything we can fully understand. Okay? So that's the neshama. Neshama is above. It's Shmona. It's also Mishnah. What's Mishnah? So it's interesting. The Mishnah was the unseen Torah, isn't it? The Mishnah is the unseen Torah Shebaal Peh. The first time it was written down, which was not meant to be, it had to be because we would have forgotten it, but the first time it was written down, it was put into physicality in the Mishnah. So it's just the interpose. It's that piece that takes you from the non-seen to the seen. The physical to the non-physical wrapped together in one place. And what is oil? Oil and the wick and the fire. So the fire is one thing, but the oil is the interposition between the wick and the flame. It's what draws it up. That's what Chazal say. Well, not so important, but it's, beautiful, but just kind of give you a little bit. That's what the neshama. Neshama is that which is, and those two up there, I don't know. That's above my pay scale. Okay? So that's why it says in Eov, the nishmat shakai tevinem. Right, the neshama of the God gives men understanding. So understanding and seichel is the kirot oyev nafshi dika la'aretz chayati. Says King David, the enemy has persecuted my nefesh. They come after my body. Right? Yisach nafsho minei shchat chayto merov bashalach. God gives back his soul, nefesh from the pit, and chayah life from perishing. They came after me. They came to kill me. They came to kill my goof. Right? He was attacked. He was chased. Okay. So the nefesh is the lowest, and we move up from there. Okay. Great. Yeah. Hello.
Sorry, I have 2 questions. One, is that the order of the soul?
That is the
when
order.
You wrote it with
Yes.
like
Yes.
Yehuda and Chai on top?
That is correct.
And
Chai and
also-
Yehuda on top.
Right, and
This
also
is somehow they say this is God's essence, God's uniqueness. This is in the spiritual world. Rather, they say when a person chas chalila gets karet, right? Different opinions. If you get karet for eating food on Yom Kippur, for having relations with a woman who is a menstruant, for eating chametz on Pesach, a person gets karet cut off. Different opinions what actually that refers to. One is that these 3 get cut off from your higher level soul. Right? There's a cut off over here. And that can be reattached, thank God, through tshuva. Yes, sir.
It's okay. And also, what's the connection with wind and ruach?
So it was saying ruach is the spirit, that's the culmination. This fights this, and it comes out through the emotions.
So what does that have to do with wind?
I guess that's what brings movement in the world. And speech is one. That's what we consider speech to be a bit of both. That's why speech is over here, right? Because it's physical and non-physical at the same time. Yeah.
Can you explain that to shaman again?
The shaman, it's not so important, but it's just, they see the shaman is the interposition between, 8 represents, it's the connecting point between these two and these two. So just like oil is the interposition between the flame and the wick, right? The oil is that in between. Yes.
So is the neshama what makes us human? It's
The
what makes
neshama
humans
is
above everyone
not what
else.
makes us human. Is well, yes, actually, it's what the neshama is what separates us out from the animal world. We have a lot in common. The neshama takes us up, and that's why we get a chelik in olam haba. Yes, that's what makes us human. The ability to think and to speak. By the way, animals don't speak. Like, they don't have that because speech is part of that. It's a neshama thing.
But they have
It's
emotions.
nefesh, but it's a neshama thing. That's a good question. I mean, yes and no. They do, but they act upon instinct. They don't say, you know what, I've been mean lately. I need to work on my me don't. Right? Your dog doesn't say that. You know what, I need to cut down on the food. You know what, I've been eating too many chow chow bites or whatever. They don't have that. Anyway, yes.
Sorry, I know you said it's above your pay grade, but like, are the two higher levels like it's another level above neshama where it's like
It's a person to sham in shemayim.
so it's like yechidas, like you're basically in yechidas with the Kaddish Baruch.
I can see you're a Lubavitcher. That's what
I'm
Lubavitch.
not.
Are you not?
I grew up with a Chabad shul.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what they're into. All the Kabbalah and Chabad. Okay. Let's move on to the next part. And let's just do a little bit of this. Takes you into the class. So, it goes like this. Check this out. We started by saying we have body and soul. We said the body is respectful. We know what the soul is made up of. How do we interact with the neshama? If this is what it is, this is what the soul is, how do we interact with it? What is the portal that allows us to affect it? We know we have to affect and fix up the sin of Adam and Rishon. That's going to take us all the way back to Gan Eden, Yemot HaMashiach and Tchiat HaMetim. But how do we, what's the mechanism? We haven't been told what we have to do. I mean, it's all very nice and philosophical, but what do we have to do? And the answer to that is mitzvah. Mitzvah is the mechanism by which we act in most cases, except 6, with our bodies, and our body impacts the neshama. I'll say that again. Fine, we made a body and soul. We have the chait of Adam and Rishon, the sin of Adam and Eve before and after, right? The sin of the forbidden fruit, right? So what now? So what do I do? So we know the two are put together. We know there is bad in the world. So how are we meant to win this whole game? How do we get to the end of history in order to fix this all up? And the answer to that is, we have something called mitzvah. Mitzvah is the mechanism by which the body's actions affect the soul in a positive way. It is how the body purifies the soul, and the soul ends up impacting the body. So what does the word mitzvah actually mean? So as children, and I mean quite correctly, mitzvah usually refers to good deeds, you know? You want to help your grandmother cross the street, you're doing a mitzvah. You want to bring your father a cup of water, right? You want to walk on your father's back, which I always get my daughters to do. One of the great treats of a young girl. You do a mitzvah, right? You want to keep Shabbat. That's a mitzvah. But what does the word actually mean?
Command.
So we translate it as commandment, right? Because we know there are Tariag mitzvahs, 630 mitzvot in the Torah. But what does the word actually mean? That's what it refers to. But what does the word actually mean? Remember, you should have got the theme already of my classes, yeah? The word itself is telling us something. It's telling us to do a mitzvah, it's telling us to take an action, but what does the word actually mean? So it's related to another word, which is salvata, which we use Aramaic, and that word means to bond, to tie together, right? A connection or a binding. So whatever this thing is, and it's going to come in many forms, as we know, whatever it is going to bind and connect the body and the soul. Through the actions of the body, it's going to connect the body and the soul. That's the ultimate reality, and that's how we're going to affect creation. That's part one. Here's part two. It goes like this. We know we have 613 mitzvot, referred to as the... Everyone got this down already? We know we have 613 mitzvot. Okay? That's one of the first things we learn in yeshiva, Tariag mitzvot. Okay? We have 613 mitzvot. Now, the mistake most people make is they think that, okay, that means each one of us has to do 613 mitzvot. Is that true? It's impossible. In order to keep all 613, you'd have to be a man and a woman, which nowadays may not be such a... You'd have to live 2,000 years ago, at the time of the base of Mikdash. You'd have to live in Eretz Yisrael. How many mitzvot, and we'll talk more about this when we talk about Israel, we're going to focus on Israel for a few classes, 2.5 maybe. How many mitzvot are talui ba'aretz, can only be fulfilled in the land of Israel? How many mitzvot can only be fulfilled in the land of Israel? Give me a percentage. Throw it out. 20? 30?
According to the Rambam, isn't it 100?
No. No, the Rambam says the best place to keep all the mitzvot are in Israel. But some of them can be kept outside of Israel. That's the Rambam. It's true. We're going to look at that Rambam. We're going to study that Rambam together. He's going to be like, really the mitzvot are given to us in order to fulfill them. Actually, he says moving to Israel is one of the 630 mitzvot. But I'm asking different. I'm asking what percentage of the 613 can only be kept in the land of Israel? Can you keep Shabbat outside of Israel? Yeah. Can you keep kosher outside of Israel? Yeah. Can you keep the korbanot outside of Israel? No. 53%. Wild, right? 53%, over half the mitzvot, I tell you, can only be kept in the land of Israel. By the way, that already should shout and scream and say, wow, it shows what Eretz Yisrael is about. Now, we begin to understand why Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to get in. Now, you don't want to just lie down on the beach in Tel Aviv. Right? You wanted to get in order to the mitzvot he couldn't do outside. That was his real desire. That's why he prayed 515 times. Is that right? 515. Right? So in order to keep 16, you'd have to be a thief. Right? You've got to steal something to return it. Right? You'd have to get married and divorced. Mitzvah to give again. Right? So we have a lot of mitzvahs in the Torah. So we say, I tell you why I mention this. Not just to be, clever and cute. But 613 mitzvot isn't just for every individual. It means 613 for all Jewish people over the entire world, for all of Jewish history. Right? Because there's mitzvot we just can't do today. How many can we actually do today on a regular basis? So the Chavetz Chaim lists out all the mitzvot we're able to do today. What is that? A couple hundred maybe? From the Torah, Doraita, and the Rabbanim, because they stem around the Doraitas, yeah. And once you get to Rabbanim, you end with lots more. But talk about Torah mitzvah from the Torah itself. That's about it, really. So we talk mitzvah. I just want to pull back at this whole thing. It doesn't mean doing kind deeds how we affect, but there's a national mission that we are on that is sailing right through history. I see it like a boat sailing right through history, and people are going off, but eventually the boat's got to reach the end. Right? It can't just be us and our little, our own Daled Amot. Okay. So what do the mitzvot actually enable us to do? So we touched upon it already a little bit. Our soul is connected to God. We saw that comparison, the 5 and 5 comparison between God and our souls. Yeah. So ultimately, it says in Bereshit, really we want to emulate God, be like God. We have the ability to be like God, not actually turn into a God, but to be like God. Let's have a look where that comes from. It says in Bereshit at the beginning, "Vayivra Elokim es Adam." God created man. So in his image he created them. God created mankind in his image. Now this image cannot be physical because we already saw that God is not physical. Right? We didn't compare the body. Although there is some visibility of it, but we can't see God, right? We can see God's attributes. We can't see the soul. We can see the soul's attributes. We can see what the soul tries to achieve by what the body does. So to God is the spiritual, non-physical image that we are created in. So it can't be physical because God's not physical. Right? One of the 13 basic principles. Okay? So what does that mean? How are you meant to be like God? Says the Torah, "V'alachta b'drachav," you should walk in God's ways. Act like God. Okay? Right? God has certain attributes. We should emulate them. That's what we're trying to do over here. Says the Gemara, God is merciful, God does good, so we do good as well. Right? We choose the good things. And the Gemara goes on, just like he clothed the naked, he gave clothes to Adam Rishon and Chava. You too should clothe the naked, you should do chesed as well. God visits the sick. Which sick person did God visit? Avram Avinu after the circumcision, after his bris. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nechem Avelim, God comforts the mourners, as in Adam Rishon. So too, Afatah Nechem Avelim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaveh Meitim, God buries the dead. Afatah Kover Meitim, so too you do the same. And it goes on and on and on. That is what we are trying to do. It's interesting. What is the Gemara? What part, what aspect, what element of mitzvot does the Gemara pinpoint in order to emulate God? Between us and other people. It doesn't say God keeps Shabbat, we keep Shabbos. Right? It doesn't say God wears tefillin, we tefillin, and God actually does wear tefillin, but whatever that means. But it says Bein Adam L'Chaveiro. Says the Rambam, and this is the other most unread Rambam. I wrote a book, and I put this in my first book, and the editor and he was like, "I've never seen this Rambam before. We didn't remember ever seeing this Rambam before." It felt good. Look at this Rambam. The Rambam in Hilchot Temura, the laws of Temura, not something we study too often, says a nice summary. Look at this. V'chol elu hadavarim, and all of these matters, these mitzvot that we're talking about, what are they for? What's the whole mitzvah thing all about? What is the ultimate expression of mitzvah? What is the ultimate reason? And he says, I'll give you a one-line answer, a bumper sticker, right? This, you could tweet this. This is 140 characters or less. Kedei l'choif etz yitro. All these mitzvahs are there to come and to force your yetzer, your negative traits, or l'takein de'osav, and to fix up your character traits. That is what this whole thing's all about. What is life all about? Becoming a better person. Eating matzah, make you a better person. Keep Shabbat, that should make you a better person. Don't speak Lashon Hara, become a better person. That's the Rambam. It's the Rambam. Amazing, right? It's a very bold move of the Rambam, by the way. Now you can little understand why everyone was like so freaking out with the Rambam, right? In his day, they were like, "Oh, burn the Rambam's book." You know, that's the big thing. You know what it's all about? I'll tell you what it's all about. I'll give you one thing: becoming a better person. A mensch. V'rov dinei haTorah, and the majority of the laws of the Torah, einan ela eitzot. They are advice, instructions, right? Mirachak migadol, from the great advisor, from God ha'etzah, the great advisor, l'takein hadeyot v'liyasher kol ma'asim, to help you correct your character traits and straighten your ways. That's what it's all about. Be like God, act in good ways, bein l'chaveru. Wild, right? Isn't that crazy, Rambam? That's what it's all about. Someone says to you, what is being Jewish all about? Become a better person. Exactly. If you're a nasty person, which we all are sometimes, but you're missing the whole point. You keep all the laws of the Torah, right? And you're not becoming a better person because of it. You're not improving your neshama. You're not improving your character traits. But then again, if you just do this and don't do the other mitzvot, bein am lamakom, keeping kosher and Shabbat, you're missing out as well. That's the Rambam. What time do you make it? I watched a little bit after the time. Okay, we're going to stop over there. We're going to stop over there. We'll pick up the next class, which is a continuation of this one point, with a beautiful piece of chinuch. Have a fantastic and successful day.